Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second?
Second. Or you seconded?
I second.
Third.
Third.
Is there any questions on the minutes? If not, all in favor of approval?
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
And before we go any further, Wally is an acting member tonight with the absence of Scott Paul. Filings. We have one filing for Rich Road.
The retreat lot is a complete application for the knowledge.
Somebody want to acknowledge that filing?
Okay.
Form A plans. 61A release, 169 8 Lots Road, lots 1 and 3. And I'm assuming John's gonna step off. Jen, what was the lot number of the one that we discussed last meeting?
Lot 4. So, as we did last time, we've done likely 1 or 2 at a time until they're all gone.
And how many is there total in that?
We have the map. Okay.
6 of them?
5.
5?
Yeah, 5. So 2 more.
So the question is, does this land that's under 61A currently, the town would have right of first refusal, matching 2 bona fide offers that they have? Comments from the board? Either one of you?
I have to formulate my, what I'm gonna say.
These parcels are not on the open space plan as priority parcels, they're not in the master plan as priority
It's a
parcels.
dead-end road.
And they're just single lot, I mean, they're bigger than single lot size, but not substantially bigger.
And these 2 are not contiguous either.
Obviously, as taxpayers, we're not in a position to just buy open land for the sake of having open land. I wish things were differently, but they're not. I can't imagine the town having any use for the parcels.
Wally?
No, I would agree with Bob.
Is there any comments from the audience on that? Okay, so we need to make a motion for a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, whether we think that the town should pursue it or pass over it.
I'll make a recommendation that we, to the selectmen, that we pass on this.
Second.
Not pursue.
Second.
There's no other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. John, come on back. We have a covenant release for Romeo Dudley Drive.
You'll recall that Dudley Drive had to be extended the pavement and then the gravel as well, to encompass all of the legal frontage of the second lot at the end of the Dudley Drive right-of-way. And in accordance with the details that were shown on the Form A plan and the voluntary covenant that the applicant entered into with the board, that has all been accomplished and approved, so that's all set. So we just need to release that covenant. So I need a motion to release the covenant held at Worcester District Registry of Deeds Book 53820, page 94.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Is there any discussion on this release?
Jen, I live across the street, but that's,
Yeah.
There's no conflict
pulled out the
there.
pavement longer.
Yeah. No, there's nothing, I don't
Oh,
recuse
no,
myself.
no,
Yeah, no,
you're-
I
you
have
don't
no
need to
stake.
recuse.
No horse in this race.
No, no horse.
So Bob, living across the street, has he done everything he's supposed to? Like Jen said he did?
We still
think-
have drainage issue there, but it's not his problem.
So the motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Sorry, 5-0.
Standing room only.
Site plan waiver for Atlas Box. Somebody from,
Tavares from Alice Box is here. Anybody pinch-hitting with you? All right. You have an application dated November 7th. You have correspondence also dated October 26th from Whitman and Bingham, Anthony Cleves at Whitman and Bingham. And I got to the plan. Yes, the plan is the last page. So Frank is here to answer any questions you may have. Frank, if you can just summarize, what's the deal? Why do you need the extra parking?
The line additional help. And what we're finding is, especially during the shift transition, so for about 2 hours, 2-hour period, we have an overlap of shifts. And we starting to find that we're running out of parking spots. So we're looking to add about 60 parking spots to the additional parking lot.
And it looks like those spaces are...
is there a plan other than a 8.5 by 11?
I do have a large
There you go.
This really doesn't mean a whole lot to us.
So this is the island coming off 146, right, Frank?
that is the island inside, way
Inside?
inside.
Okay, so
And it's
going up there and show them what the deal is. Orient them to 146.
So this is the entrance, 146 runs along here.
Oh, okay. That's why I'm turning
So
around.
this is, you enter here, and there's one gate right here, or you can come in and there's an additional gate on the bottom.
This is the building right here?
The building is right here, yes. So the existing parking lot is this right here. And it kind of, you see the dotted line kind of cuts this way. So we're trying to add additional parking here and just extending that.
It looks to me like, from reading this, you've already done drainage calc. You know where the stormwater will be going?
Yes, that's gonna go right, there's a drain right here, and there's drainage right here, and that always goes to that pond that's waiting, actually it's waiting in the front of 146.
Graves Engineering did take a look at it. They had 2 minor comments. So as long as those comments are addressed, we should be all set.
The reason that wasn't done previously extended was the property across the street was zoned residential, and that has changed. So now the setbacks from the property line on B2 are much less. So now we can actually extend it.
Okay. And does this put you with the additional pavement? Does that affect like landscaping and lot coverage and stuff like that?
Lot coverage is all set. I honestly did not run the interior lot landscaping calculation.
Oh, here's so much.
I don't think Brian, Anthony did either. Though they are extending the islands within that too, consistent with what's already
Get
there.
that.
It's attached to this.
Is it 60 feet?
Every time I count, I change.
So that's what these elliptical solids are? Is island?
Yeah, those are the islands throughout the parking lot.
So they'll
Yeah.
kind of match.
Yeah.
Any thoughts? Questions?
So the Graves concerns have been addressed?
They will be addressed, there are more plan details.
Okay.
I would make that part of any action you
Motion.
take. Mhm.
I want to be on a record for thanking you for staying in Sutton and moving, and aren't we fortunate? We don't have a lot of businesses, we don't have a lot of space in Sutton for commercial space, and we're brilliant on the planning board, you know? And then you do better than you expected and have to build a parking lot, so I hope it continues. I don't know what you're going to do after this.
We're working on
But,
that.
yeah, and I'm sure you are. But it appears that everything's in order, and everything you've done to date has been more than appropriate, and as a board member, we oftentimes tell people that come in to present plans to us for businesses in that overlay district to look back at how Atlas Box has approached the whole project for us, because they've set a high standard. So, thank you for coming in.
Thank you. I just have one more note. I know on the concerns of Jeff, he had mentioned about backing into the road. That road is a 10-mile-an-hour road. There is a gate right by that exit that forces everybody to pretty much come to a stop there. If you drive up about 200 feet up that driveway, which is not in that map, but there are 12 parking spots that have been there since day one from phase one that back into that exact same road, which is that entrance. It's very lighted. There isn't a lot of traffic there. There is tractor trailers, but it's our own tractor trailers. So we actually don't see that as a safety issue internally, so I wanted to make that comment. But there is parking spots exactly just like that on the same property.
Anyone else on the board have any questions? John? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this? Hearing none.
Make a motion to approve
Well, it's waive site plan review.
waive site plan review
I'll second that.
with the conditions that the Graves concerns are addressed.
The concern, other than the
Yeah,
backing
other one.
concern?
Yep.
Have a second?
You got it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
I'll make that up, we have 14 days to pump it out, it'll be out in the next day or two, and we're good to go.
Thank you.
So is there correspondence?
You have one or two members who are at the CMRPC quarterly meeting, if you, one, the one member, that was, why didn't you give the update on that?
I'll give a brief summary of the Central Mass Regional Planning meeting, which was last Thursday night, and it was on trails primarily, and what they're trying to do is to, and I sent Jen some of this information, have a consistent reference to the trails in the local area. Like, for example, on some websites they'll show a picture of a trail, others will have more detail in terms of geography, where is it, where do you start, can you see, and there's a detailed questionnaire which Jen has. Unfortunately, it's kind of a quick turnaround, they need it by Thursday. So that was the topic of last the meeting, two other additional issues came up. A, they're moving out of Union Station, and they're moving over to the Unum Building. And that will be on the 5th floor over there. That's coming up by like 1 December. That's
Wow, quick.
a quick one. The reason for this is they used to have 22 people working there. Now they have 32, and they're looking for 6 more interns. So they've literally run out of space, and that configuration is an L. They don't have a rectangle, and they can get shared office. There's a lot of advantages of being in the Unum building as opposed to where they are now. Third, on the 1st of December, there is a legislators' breakfast at the Shrewsbury Town Library, and the topic is water. And this is like a 3-hour session, and I forget the name of the individual. There's a woman from the Commonwealth that deals with water. She's going to be conducting this whole thing. It starts at like 8:30. It's all morning. I plan to go, and obviously, if anybody can join me, that I think would be a good idea if you can fit it into your time program. That's the end of the comments on the Central Mass Planning.
And thanks, Wally. I will also go, so we'll coordinate. Tammy has added one notice of interest into your packet this week. The Millbury Registered Marijuana Dispensary that was proposed for North Main Street was approved, just so you know that.
Okay.
So that would be medical right now, since you can't do recreational yet.
Okay, so.
It was attached to the other box.
Public hearing for Forest Edge. Somebody want to read the public hearing notice?
Let me have it. In accordance with the provisions of the Sutton zoning bylaw, section 4C, site plan review, 7A2, special permits, and 6A, condominium development, the planning board will hold a hearing on the application of LLC of Milford, Mass. Relative to the condominium project on Ariel Circle off Blackstone Street, known as Forest Edge at Sutton. The first application seeks to amend the condominium special permit to divide the 11 fourplex units in Phase 2 into 22 duplex units. The second application seeks to reduce the open space for this development by 1.18 acres for installation of a telecommunications tower on a portion of the open space located within Grafton. The hearing will be held in the Sutton Town Hall, 3rd floor, Monday, November 13th at 7:10 p.m. A copy of the application can be inspected in the office of the town clerk during normal office hours. And we're almost on track.
Mr. Chairman, if you could pause for a minute, I just want to get a few extra chairs.
Okay.
I saw that and it was attached to this one. The Atlas box. I was wondering what to do with Atlas box. Get ready. How are you? Healthy? What's the news? In Florida, I haven't been quiet. It's kind of, yeah, it's good here. It's suspended in the air or something.
Just some of the interior was that hold up the rocks,
Yeah.
they've got it all strapped down, but,
Yeah.
already been reinforced.
And this is so you can have a bar dance, or you just like getting over?
Like cars in it.
Yeah, oh, that'd be a 3-car garage. Is that the plan?
Yeah.
How many cars you got left?
Oh, no, just, 3. 2 for Ben and 1 for me. Lonnie put her.
Yeah, oh yeah. And how's he doing?
That's great. Yeah. He's like, he had school.
Okay. Straight on.
You want me to move?
Seat next to me, too. Feel free.
All right.
Good evening. I'm Michael Bruce, Jonathan's son, and I'll prepare the plan that you're looking at. We're here to talk about splitting the Phase 2 units into duplexes. So Phase 1 is 40 units, generally on the south to east side of the site. It's 9 fourplexes and 2 duplexes. These 2 are the last 2 under construction now. We should be delivering them in March, thereabouts. So Phase 2 is everything shown in black here. You have a copy, right, of the same exhibit? Underneath, you can see the approved layout, which are 11 fourplexes. As you can see, there's generally no real difference between what we're proposing and what was approved, except for the setbacks. Still 50 feet off aerial circle, just down to a minimum of 25 feet between buildings instead of minimum of 50 before. The reason we're here is we think they fit better into the sloped land, especially on the inside. When you have a 176-foot-long box with 4 units in there, grading can become tough. The slabs are staggered, and sometimes water can run along the buildings instead of always away from it. And also, public safety is a big concern of ours. With duplexes, every unit is an end unit, and first responders can access 3 sides instead of having to go all the way around to get to the back of the middle unit. You can easily get between and around duplexes. Any questions?
This is a 2-part application. We've received 2 separate applications. The first one is to go from 4s to 2s. The second one is to potentially remove some area from the open space that was approved with the original project. So you certainly, because it was advertised as one hearing, can certainly choose to hear the second part and then just discuss everything together, or you can act on this, hear issues specific to this. They may commingle in terms of number of units. So up to you how you want to handle it.
So before we do get into it too deep, why don't you give us a presentation on the cell tower site that you're talking about? And
Okay. We thought we were going to do separate.
and we'll hear from you, and then it looks like we're going to have a lively discussion behind you, so.
So, good evening, my name is Daniel Klasnick, and I'll just speak to the aspect related to the open space. I think you do have a copy of my application. But no, please application. In there was an 11 by 17 set of plans. Towards the back. So just by way of a little bit of background, I think as this board is aware, back in 2003, a special permit was originally approved for the Forest Edge development. Subsequent to that, the Board of Appeals granted a variance to allow the 84 units to be located solely on 35 acres, but also to allow the open space to comprise of 2 separate lots. One lot, 47.65 acres, was located in the town of Grafton. And primarily that's what we're here to discuss tonight. In regards to the table that's included on the plans that were provided, I thought it'd be helpful just to give you a slightly larger version, because my old eyes, I can just barely see them, so I thought it would just be helpful to give you a 11 by 17 handout. I think as you're aware, the town bylaws require a 40% open space calculation. So what we did as part of this application was to provide you with all the information in regards to the total land area. So for instance, if you're looking at that 11 by 17 inch piece of paper I just handed out, we've calculated both the land in Sutton plus the land in Grafton. And the total area is 92.62 acres. So that's the total area, including the 35 acres that the variance allowed the 84 units to be located on, as well as all the area in Sutton and all the area in Grafton. So if you use the 40% calculations, the total required open space would be 37.05 acres. We then calculated that area less the area that would be required to accommodate the telecommunications tower. This would include the construction, as shown on the plans, of a driveway. Everything would be located in the town of Grafton, but there's going to be a driveway installed, as well as some riprap area, some storm area, and in addition to that, there will be a leased area where the actual telecommunications facility will be located at. So that total area was calculated at 1.18 acres. So if you take the total open space provided of 56.44 acres, and you take that less the 37.05, the excess open space is 19.39 acres. In addition, your bylaw speaks to calculations regarding percentage of maximum wetlands and 2-to-1 slope areas. So we also provided a calculation of that based upon the 37.05 total required open space of 18.53 acres, and noted that there would, based upon the actual topography of the land and the wetlands at the two properties, it's really just 7.30 acres. So in all respects, the current design and the future design substantially exceed the open land requirements that are specified in your zoning bylaw. So in regards to this request, what would be proposed on the town of Grafton property would be a 170-foot tall monopole tower located within a 40 by 60-foot leased area that would be fenced, and the installation of a, as I said, roadway with underground utilities. So it seemed to me, in looking at your bylaw, and as we tried to outline in the applications, looking at each one of your special permit criteria, that it would be possible to reduce the amount of open space, because even if we were coming to you with a new facility, we don't need as much open land or open space as is currently made available for this particular type of facility, for the condominium development rather. And the location of and the use of that adjoining parcel in the town of Grafton for the telecommunications facility in no way impairs or in any way detracts from the condominium development, the open space, the rural character, the other criteria, and specified what you're trying to accomplish in your bylaws. So we feel that it's possible to do this, provide what really is an important service, which would be the wireless service, by reducing by, as I had said, just the 1.1 acres, still allowing for a substantial excess amount of open land or open space to satisfy your bylaw requirements.
Mr. Chairman, if I can interject?
Yep.
All right, so the application is to amend the special permit beyond what the zoning board already did. So the hatched areas are private land outside of this development. The white areas were part of the original development. The zoning board said, you know what, the condos can just sit on this parcel right here. But you're then going to have an open space parcel right here in Sutton and an open space parcel right here in Grafton that should be permanently protected with the appropriate use restrictions. Those use restrictions never went into place. That's one of the things the board and the applicants and whatever else when we talk about tonight. The details of the tower application itself, that application would be filed with the town of Grafton, and the Grafton planner, Joe Layden, is right here. So, I thought he was going to get away with not being outed, but he's right there. And so this application would get filed in the town of Grafton, and the particulars of the tower and its permitting would be dealt with through a whole different public hearing process. Certainly, Mr. Klasnick can answer questions to some degree about that application, but what the board needs to decide is, based on the permit that was granted and then the actions the zoning board took after the fact to put this development on 35 acres to allow these to be split out, and with their conditions and the materials that were filed in both of those cases, Will the planning board even assent, the planning board in Sutton, never mind what the planning board in Grafton will do, will the planning board in Sutton assent to allowing the area necessary for the tower to be removed from the open space? And if so, what would be the mechanism for that? Does it have to be on a separate parcel? Can it just be a leased area? Lots of questions if you get that far. Right, so the meat of this application, certainly there's a tower question, but the details of that, if it gets that far, would be handled through a public hearing process in the town of Grafton with notification to all legal abutters, anybody within 300 feet of that area.
1,300 feet.
All right, there you go, even more. Cool. Better bylaw. All right, so hopefully that summarized what we're doing tonight. If you
Okay.
want to just lay the ground rules there.
Because of the size of this meeting tonight, and I'm gonna take a wild guess that there's gonna be some emotion. I'm gonna limit the comments to like 2 minutes apiece, if the point's been made. And I want everybody to be civil about the discussion here, all right? I do have one question. When you were speaking, Jen, you said the restriction for the open space had not been officially filed?
No, these parcels are both in forestry, chapter 61, so they are restricted in their use, but not on a permanent basis and for a tax advantage. So there is no permanent use restriction on either the Sutton parcel or the Grafton parcel.
Okay,
So that was a condition of the planning board's approval. It was also a condition of the zoning board's approval.
Okay.
You do have a summary. I wrote you a memo, because this is a complicated issue.
Very
So can you explain that again? That made sense.
My memo? made
No, I
sense?
haven't.
Okay.
I just need to understand, because when you say that nothing was filed, but then it's under 60, or was it 60?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
61.
that's through the
That's
assessors.
that's a different.
Right,
That
right.
has nothing to do with the filing of the open
No,
space.
no.
What happened there? Why didn't that happen?
Because the applicant started to follow through and never followed through, and we didn't follow through to make sure he followed through. That's,
So
So,
that leaves, so let me
so
just ask a question. So yeah.
typically, I believe that open space becomes property owned by the homeowners association,
right.
correct?
The way our bylaw is written, the homeowners association is supposed to hold that land. When the zoning board granted the variance, they changed that. They allowed the homeowners association, you could still do that, but they also said, no, you know what? Town of Sutton and Town of Grafton can hold the land, or a non-profit with the appropriate use restrictions. That's what they said, so,
Still have
they,
questions.
so the zoning board tweaked the bylaw even more. So the homeowners association can still hold it, or the town of Sutton can hold the land in the town of Sutton, and the town of Grafton can hold the land in the town of Grafton. One of the things that was a problem originally when the developer approached Grafton first, because that was the bigger open space, and said, hey, it's a requirement, I have to restrict this. We'll just have Sutton hold it all. Grafton said, no, Sutton can't hold land in the town of Grafton. And a large conundrum ensued, and that's where the ball got dropped, right there. So I did have a conversation with council in advance of this meeting. And the one thing he wanted to, or there were a few things he wanted to impress, that a permanent use restriction is needs to be structured in a very specific way. Law normally operates, if you put a use restriction unless you re-vote it, it expires in 30 years. So it has to be very specifically written. You still have to put a time frame, but you would put a time frame like 100 years or 200 years. You have to put a time frame. He also asked, and hopefully somebody, Bruce or somebody in the condo association can ask, if this additional open space is referenced in the master deed, and if so, that may be germane to the discussion as well. And a permanent use restriction cannot be held by the owner of the land. So, so if a nonprofit holds the land, they can't also just say, we'll never develop it. It has to be held by or enforceable by the town of Grafton and enforceable by the town of Sutton. They can't just promise in a recorded document to never develop it. There has to be an enforcement mechanism. So, and so his first comment was, whatever the board decides, and they have latitude according to council, whatever they decide, the first order of business, whether things stop or go, is to get the use restriction in place, or to get a draft from the applicant of a use restriction, to get that reviewed and make sure it is in the form intended by the regulation.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes. Name?
Quite Jonathan Bruce. I represented the original applicant. I was the original applicant. I've been here since the beginning. And what Jen said is pretty accurate. And as you can see, it's very complicated. When it came time to deed restrict it, the restriction could not run to the town of Sutton because the land was in Grafton. That's when I appeared in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals to see if we can put the condominium on the 35 acres, which is what the relief was granted, with the other two parcels, the excess land in Sutton and the excess land in Grafton, to be deed restricted, conveyed to a municipality or a nonprofit. I was actually working with the town of Grafton, and it just went nowhere. The attorney that I was using at the time has since retired, and there are no records available, but I know at the time he was working with town council of Sutton to get this resolved. It fell through the cracks. It certainly wasn't by design. When Verizon approached me quite some time, a year and a half ago, the first thing I did is I called Jen and said, what's involved? And she said it would require a public hearing. And that's why we're here. But as you can see, it is complicated. The intent is, regardless of what happens here with respect to the telecommunications tower, would be to convey that property into a nonprofit with that negative easement, if you will, conveyed to somebody, but I'm not sure who. It can't go to the town of Sutton, from what I understand. But those mechanics have to be worked out, for sure. I can assure you, I'm not smart enough to have known this back in '05, that in 2017, we'd be sitting here talking about a telecommunications tower and how to get this restricted. It fell through the cracks, it's that simple.
I think the question that's burning in my mind is, who is the owner right now?
Sutton LLC.
Sutton LLC.
Open space is owned by Sutton LLC. It's in Chapter 61 protection, I believe, in both Sutton and
Both
Grafton.
Sutton, correct. Both
So,
Sutton and Grafton.
if it were to be, if Sutton LLC went to sell it, both towns would have first right of refusal to meet any bona fide offer. But just transferring it to a nonprofit owned by Sutton LLC isn't going to trigger any of that. So that is who it's currently owned by. The condominium complex controls their condos, all of their common areas, the 35 acres basically. So I just don't know, and maybe somebody can speak to, if the master deed was then changed,
Master, this
or if it ever referred to the larger open space and the requirement for maintenance.
I can address that. The master deed was generated after the zoning board of appeal allowed it to be carved up into 3 parcels, the 35 acres, to contain the condominium, and that's the only land subject to the condominium. And in fact, had the other land been subject to condominium, it wouldn't have been taxed, as I've been paying all the years for the taxes on it, because the common space is not taxable. So for the years I've been paying taxes in Sutton and in Grafton, It is, as Jen said, it is subject to 61A. And Mr. Klasnick just gave me the Exhibit A, the master deed that stipulates it is the 35 acres.
So let me just make sure, I just want to keep reviewing so that I'm clear and also people are clear as well. So the reason why Sutton LLC still owns or controls these parcels is because it fell through the cracks to put these into.
Correct.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
You have a memo from me dated November 7th. It is just over 2 pages long. And it tries as concisely as I possibly could to give you relevant background facts, which are just very minimal, and then to present some facts and some bolded items that the board is going to need to make some decisions on. With respect to this, to both applications, you'll see the first bold is, changing fourplexes to duplexes. Sutton's bylaw allows for either 1s, 2s, 3s, or 4s in a condominium complex. The fire chief has reviewed this in detail, doesn't have any issues. No other department heads have any issues with that portion of the application. So as long as it's found to be acceptable by Sutton Safety Department heads, and the units are still 2 bedrooms, which needs to be qualified, there's no bylaw conflicts or issues with that proposal. Obviously, there may be commentary, and we do have at least 3 pieces of correspondence that need to be read into the record relative to actually both of these applications. So that's the first thing you might want to try to tackle. I don't know if you'll want to actually vote that before you deal with the rest, but that is the first application. The remaining 5 paragraphs all have to do with removing a portion of the open space and allowing it to be used in any other way, never mind for a town, in any other way, developed, basically. Okay, so I don't know if you want to read through it or how you want to deal with that. I gave you a lot of background data. I gave you the bylaws in place at the time, though this is an amendment, so you would have to comply with the current bylaws. There's nothing different about the current bylaws except for it had a weird name back in time, limited density residential development. We've just changed that to condo development, just calling it what it is. So everything else is the same. You have the board's permit that they granted in 2003. You have the zoning board of appeals decision and the application that was filed with that back in 2004. And you have minutes of April 2005 and minutes of May 9th, 2005, which was the Form A plan signature where the lots were actually split. And then just some emails back and forth from me and John, just with some more background information. So that was all part of my memo. I don't know what you want, how you want to handle that. And then, like I said, you do have 3 pieces of correspondence that individuals asked to be read into the record. Amy Gatto, Joyce Sandvik, and then the selection in Grafton. Bruce Spinney, who you met, actually. Bruce Spinney, when he was doing Bruce Spinney of the rental business.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he is the chairman of Grafton Selection right now. So, however you want
You want me
to.
to read those?
Yeah, if you don't mind. That way they'll be into the record and we can hopefully move forward.
Okay. This is from Joyce Sandvik, sent on November 13th. I am unable to attend this evening's town meeting. I want to express my thoughts on the proposed changes to the Forest Edge condominium complex on Ariel Circle. I am an original owner of my unit that I purchased 12 years ago. As of this date, the builder is still in the process of completing the construction of this complex. Although I understand some of the reasons for this, it is still rather extraordinary that a relatively small complex is still under construction 12 years later. My guess is it will be under construction for the next year or two. In addition, you're probably aware of a number of issues that surfaced over the years with some of the plans that were not executed by the builder: landscaping, lighting, road repair, to complete Phase 1. My point is that I bought this complex based on original plans in a reasonable time frame for completion, and I think the town and the owners of the existing units have been accommodating and patient enough concerning plans for the complex and should not be accorded any additional changes. I am opposed to any cell phone tower due to the potential environmental issues, as well as the negative aesthetics that affect the look of the neighborhood and potential impact on our property values. I am also very opposed to the revised plan to complete the complex with all duplexes rather than quadplexes in the original plan. I think this would have a dramatic negative impact on the aesthetics and look of the neighborhood. It would create an imbalanced look that would not be pleasing and could also have an impact on the value of existing units. I think a reasonable compromise would be a few additional duplexes interspersed with the planned quadruplexes. Thanks for the opportunity to provide this input. And that's from Joyce. The second letter is from Amy Gatto. Hi, Jen. I'm unable to attend tonight's meeting due to other obligations. I would like to raise my concern for the proposal of changes at Forest Edge Community. When I purchased the unit, I was showed plans of additional phases to be built. Those plans did not show only duplexes, and if they had, I may have made a different decision to buy. I believe that this proposal will negatively impact the resale of my unit, as it is one of 4 and is not an end unit. The duplexes have better curb appeal, as the porches are significantly larger and both duplexes are end units. I believe that future buyers will wait for duplexes to be available and will look away from the quadruplex. The cell tower should not be able to be placed on the land that belongs to the condo owners, but on town property. Having the towers so close to our homes may have other concerns, specifically aesthetics, additional traffic, and the concerns regarding towers and their negative health effects. Both proposals appear to have a negative impact for the current owners, decreasing our home values, and only appears to bring value to Jonathan Bruce. Sincerely, Amy Gatto. Was there another one?
This letter from the Board of Selectmen in Grafton.
It's a long one.
If you like, I can read it.
Go ahead.
If you don't mind.
Sure, I got it.
Okay. Go for it.
Okay. And again, just for the record, Joe Layton, Town Planner in Grafton. Dear Mr. Bruce, the purpose of this letter is to comment on Sutton LLC's March 21st, 2017 letter informing the town of Grafton of their intent to use a portion of the parcel at 58 Gillette Street for a cell tower and to remove the parcel on Grafton Assessor's Map 104 Lot 7, here referred to as the Grafton parcel, from Chapter 61A status. As you will recall, the Sutton Planning Board approved the Forest Edge development as a limited density residential development, LDRD, in a 2003 decision allowing a special permit recorded at the Registry of Deeds, book 30994, page 225. The LDRD special permit allows a residential development with a density not to exceed 0.8 dwellings per acre, and the bylaw requires that open space be protected by a recorded restriction enforceable by the town of Sutton. Furthermore, condition 5 of the LDRD special permit stated, quote, prior to commencement of construction, the applicant shall produce, get approved, and recorded a permanent use restriction on the open space portion of the parcels, which prohibits any changes to this area in a form acceptable to the planning board. Subsequent to the issuance of the special permit, you sought a variance from the Sutton Board of Appeals seeking a waiver of the 1 acre requirement
for the .8 condominium units. More specifically, you requested that instead of constructing 84 units on 92 acres, that you be allowed to construct 84 on 35 acres of land, but that the open space allowing the LDRD would be divided into two parcels, one in Sutton, one in Grafton, the Sutton parcel and Grafton parcel, and would be conveyed as such to those municipalities or a nonprofit entity. The board issued the requested variance by decision dated August 5th, 2004, which was recorded in the Worcester Registry of Deeds, book 34814, page 58. That variance required that the open space parcels would remain open space with an option to transfer to the towns of Sutton and Grafton with appropriate development restrictions, or to a nonprofit entity with the same such restrictions. The town of Grafton staff has been notified that the Sutton Planning Board subsequently endorsed an approval not required plan on April 5th, 2005, and that the endorsed plan contains notations that the Grafton parcel was not buildable. Grafton staff was unable to locate the A&R plan at the Worcester Registry of Deeds. Those parcels, however, were apparently never conveyed to the towns or a nonprofit entity as the variance decision required. Based on the above, the request to remove the Grafton parcel from Chapter 61A for development for a cellular communication facility is in conflict with the permitting authorized by the town of Sutton. The special permit and the variance decision required that the Grafton parcel be permanently protected. Sutton LLC has not complied with the conditions of these decisions. It is the position of the town of Grafton that it need not exercise its right of first refusal, since Sutton's approvals required the Grafton parcel be retained as permanent open space and be conveyed to a nonprofit entity or to the town of Grafton. Furthermore, it is Grafton's position that any modifications to the above referenced approvals would require public hearing, and that the purpose of the current cell tower proposal appears to be simply to profit off a parcel that is required to remain open space. Grafton staff are available to assist the town of Sutton and Sutton LLC to achieve compliance with Sutton's permitting decisions and ensure the permanent protection of the Sutton parcel and Grafton parcel as open space. Thank you for your consideration of these comments. Sincerely, Bruce Spinney, the Second Grafton Board of Selectmen Chair.
Thank you. Before I open it up to the public, is there any comments, questions from the board itself?
I'm curious to know that there's no cell phone service down there? Is that, it's like other parts of town, and I don't have a cell phone, so I.
Yes, I think, if I may, I think even in my discussions with the town of Grafton, they've acknowledged that there's a significant gap. Part of our application to the town of Grafton will be to establish there is a significant gap in service. So there certainly is.
And then my second question, I'm sure, because I've been here so long, I was here when we did this.
Mhm.
The open space is in another town.
Part of it.
In a little our town.
Was I asleep at the wheel? What happened? We haven't done that anyplace else, have we? I hope not.
No, you have one project that's on the town line in Northbridge, but not over in terms of housing.
Okay.
And they're all
It's the most unusual situation,
Mhm. Yeah,
to
that's
have
nice.
open space
Right.
for a project in this town and another town. But
Mhm.
it must have sounded like a good idea back then, but I'm wondering, so be aware as we move forward. When we do things, it comes back to bite us.
And sorry to interrupt, I think part of the reasons was because you needed a Grafton parcel to create frontage to allow for the development, because otherwise you only had a thin, either 30 or 40-foot strip that came out to Blackstone Street.
If I
I'm
may-
sure, I'm sure we do the best we can. It's not on purpose that we make it that complicated. So if you went back and looked, they probably voted yes, and it made perfect sense that night. But that's all from me. Go ahead.
I find the whole two different towns involved. We're talking about a cell tower that's not in our town, but it affects the residents of the condominium project. It's confusing.
Okay.
So I have a real concern with this because the intent was that this be open space and protected. And what I'm concerned about is that we set a precedence here of if someone decides, or if someone benefits from not registering like they were supposed to, and so now because of that didn't happen, they can now benefit from an agreement that was originally made. So there was an agreement, everybody agreed to it, there was a lot of complexity and I think a lot of give and take to make this project happen. And it was under those agreements that it should have been executed, and we should have either the town of Sutton and Grafton owning those properties, or controlling those properties, or a nonprofit. That never happened, and now we have this loophole where you could potentially try to do this. So in spirit, I have a real problem with the intent, all the agreements that were made, and because it was never executed, it now leaves open a potential. So for that purpose, I definitely do not support this as a possibility.
Wally?
I guess my take on this is that actually the property in question is not in Sutton, it is in Grafton. And I share John's views. It is a complex issue and it never got totally resolved or completed, I guess would be a better word. So I think it's more up to the town of Grafton, and we haven't heard from the homeowners association on this particular topic, which I guess we will. Now, also saying that, I do live in the Wilkinsonville section of Sutton, and I understand the issue of cell phone service, but it could be improved over there, which I'm sure everybody would pretty much agree with. But I don't see that. Yes, sir.
That's not true, and if you guys...
Sir. It's going to go through the chair,
All right.
one at a
I
time.
thought you were responding, acknowledging
Okay.
my hand, sorry.
Mr. Bruce has something to say, and then you're next,
Sure.
all right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect to Mr. Lyden's comments, there was no need for frontage in Grafton. The original parcel had 50 feet on Blackstone Street. I actually bought a home on Blackstone Street that had the appropriate frontage to expand that frontage. I wanted to make that correction, so there wasn't, it just happened to be the parcel was, that I purchased was partly in Sutton, partly in Grafton. With respect, and I fully understand and appreciate your comments, Mr. Anderson. The only thing that I would add to that is this could have been permanently restricted, and the easement, the negative easement, if the land had all been in Sutton, could have run to the town of Sutton. In this hearing would still be happening because somebody would be coming in looking to see if that could be amended, just like the Constitution of the United States was amended 27 times. This is the process. You're exactly right that it should have happened. It didn't happen. Fully understand. It wasn't planned that way, I can assure you that. And whatever comes out of here will be the pathway to permanently as can be done, encumbering the land with this negative easement running to wherever it runs to. But that wouldn't preclude this hearing from happening. That's exactly how this system works. That you comply with the bylaws, you have a hearing, and you have a discussion about it. But that's all I have to say at the moment. But thank you.
Thank you. Sir, in the black?
Anthony Trippi, I live in the condo units. Has
Anthony,
anyone,
what's your address? I'm sorry.
on 113 area, has anyone approached you people saying that there's a dead zone in Wilkinsonville that needs to be addressed? Have you ever had anyone come to you in the town and say their cell phone service isn't working there?
Wally lives in Wilkes, I do not live in
Has any
Wilkes.
town resident ever brought that up as a problem in the last, 15 years, 12 years?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so no one's ever come to you and said this is a problem?
Not to me personally. Whether they've come to another department in town, I have no idea. Sir?
Sorry,
Yep.
just one more comment, just in case that long letter put everyone to sleep.
It is a complex issue. Well, on the surface, I think it's a complex issue. I think ultimately it's a situation that was exacerbated by not following through on a 2005 variance. That, from Grafton's standpoint, it's easily rectified. That parcel either gets deeded to the town of Grafton or to a private. And I believe when people say nonprofit, you're talking about a land trust, some form of land trust to keep that in permanent protection. If that had been done 2005, 2006, we actually would not be here. I think it is a simple situation. It's just it's been exacerbated by things being understandably dropped. But drop doesn't resolve the fact that back at that point 10 years ago, we all shouldn't be here.
Over here.
Yes, good evening. Cara Alderucci, 105 Ariel Circle. So I think we can at least all agree that why we're here is it's a loophole, an ambiguous issue. And I know that no one disputes how we got to the point that we are today. But what I do want to, and all the ambiguity, there are facts, and facts don't lie. So speaking on behalf of many of my fellow Forest Edge neighbors, found some data and supporting facts for why we are opposed to the cell phone tower, taking out any environmental or health concerns because that can be talked about at length. But what I will talk about is property value. And with Sutton, with Forest Edge having been in a quote-unquote arrested development for the past 12 years, I've been there. My husband's bought, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. My husband bought as an original owner in 2005. I have been a resident since 2011, and just seeing the ground being broken over the last year is promising and a great step, and we appreciate the landscape and the infrastructure that has finally started to be put in the last 2 years. So that's wonderful. However, with the variance or the intent to use this space, and it doesn't matter right now if it's Sutton, ultimately there are many, many next steps that Mr. Bruce and his son will have to go through. It could stop here tonight, it might get going to the zoning appeals, it still has to go through Grafton. But at least at this first stop here tonight, what I want to talk about is the potential negative impact that this cell phone tower construction will have on Forest Edge and the vicinity. So we have cited 16 articles, which I'm happy to put into the public record, but from realtors, from the New York Times, from AT&T and community studies in Berkeley, Palo Alto, as well as Massachusetts, where on average, when a 130-foot cell phone tower, this article specifically in Bridgewater, New Jersey, negatively impacts nearby home valuations and cited other town values where towers are introduced, on average of a minus 20% depreciation value on the property. A recent survey from the National Institute for Science, Public Law, and Public Safety found that 94% of home buyers are quote-unquote less interested and would pay less for a property located near a cell phone or a cell tower, or antenna. Finally, study by the Appraisal Institute from NCBI, NIH.gov, found that both the survey and market sales analysis found that CPBS's cell phone base stations have a negative impact on the prices of houses in the study. It found that buyers would pay as much as 20% for a property that does not have that, given the two factors, all things else being equal. Happy to submit those into the public discourse. And council, if you have further questions about our sources and some statistics, we're happy to have this discussion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody else in the audience? Nick?
Robert Nunamarka, 24 Singletary Ave, Sutton. I'm kind of amazed that this was originally approved where the open space was not a part of the condominium. That is so unlike any condominium that I'm ever familiar with. Talking about the disposition of this, the condo association is a non-profit. Couldn't these two pieces of land be deeded to the condominium and still retain their open space, solving all the problems except the cell tower?
There was another hand up over in the back.
Scott Alderucci, 105 Ariel as well. Like my wife said, we have documentation on all this, but as an original owner, I bought into this seeing a plan, knowing what the neighborhood was going to look like. Now to suddenly make all these modifications, it deeply upsets me. I see my unit as going to be less desirable, as the other people who commented and put in the record. On the addition of the open space, I also bought into it knowing that I live around a forest, and that's it. This land was given to the condo association, was given for us, and I know we compacted it on the 35 acres, but we looked at it all and said, okay, no one else can build anything around us. None of the aesthetics can be destroyed, nothing can be changed, because it's going to be given. And so now, I sat through years of no building and everything else patiently. But these constant changes have really upset me as an owner. And I feel like the board should look into, all these constant problems that we've been having. And I am opposed to both of these options. Thank you.
Wally?
Is there anybody here from the association, or that represents the association?
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
And if so, could,
Bruce
is there a
106
position? Okay.
And I'm one of the trustees. I thought it was going to be alone, there's two more, I think, unless somebody else snuck in. As a whole, I believe on the issue of the duplexes, from conversations we've had the last week, we don't have any particular issue with the change from fourplex to duplexes. As far as the cell tower goes, like everybody, I think we're concerned with I haven't heard anything specifically about the tower itself as much as one change to the land. Are we back here next year with another change to the land and another change to the land? So that even if something was allowed, that it be permanently protected from anything else moving forward. So unless Don or Fred want to correct me, I believe that's the position of the Board of Trustees.
Thank you. So, again, we're dealing with land that's in Grafton, but it was tied to
Well, it's Grafton and Sutton. You have a parcel in Sutton that's just shy of 10 acres of open space.
997, something like
It's
that.
north of the existing condo complex, and you have over 35 acres in Grafton that is east of the condominium complex.
So, our town council you spoke to,
Mhm.
and he's pretty much left it up to whatever the board decides because it had never been recorded.
Mhm.
I keep coming back to the initial agreement that the gentleman from Grafton read of what the agreement originally said. And that troubles me as to why we keep talking about allowing, or the possibility of allowing, this to continue and move forward when most of the evidence says it's a restricted property, or it was supposed to be a restricted property.
Yeah, in the memo dated November 7th, I led off with what Joe Layden referred to, which was several conditions of the 2003 special permit from the planning board relative to these applications were not completed by the applicant or enforced by the town. Number 5 was prior to the one that Joe read. Prior to commencement of construction, the applicant shall produce, get approved, and record a permanent use restriction on the open space portion of the parcels which prohibits any changes to this area in a form acceptable to the planning board. And then 18 was prior to the first transfer, a homes association documents shall be submitted, approved, and recorded, which was also not accomplished. So those are the things I put forward right up front, because those are kind of base things. And then the memo goes into discussions about really each thing you need to think about. The first thing we already talked about was whether you're okay with 4s to 2. There's nothing in the regulations or the prior approval that says you can't go from 4s to 2s. So that's completely, you've got some input on that. It complies with the bylaws. If you want to change that, that's up to you. But then we move through the issues around adjusting the open space. So if it's okay with you, if we could just kind of go through each paragraph here and have a discussion specific to kind of each of these elements. And because it's so complicated, it may be something you need me to ask more questions of council on. I can certainly, if you have specific questions, I can ask those specific questions. It may be something you want to kind of take back and think about for 2 weeks and really pull it apart. That's up to you, because it's complicated. It's simple in some ways, but it is definitely complicated in other ways.
I just think that it's simple because the intent was to preserve that land. That was part of the agreement. It wasn't executed for various reasons, but I think that that's not an excuse to not allow, to me, that was the agreement. It's like when I shake someone's hand, I say, all right, we're in agreement, we sign a legal document, which is all part of this process. It's all legal, it's all on paper. It didn't get followed through. It should go back to the spirit of what the original agreement was, in my mind, as long as that's legally viable. And so to me, we need to honor the original agreement, because that's why the agreement was made, was because of all the conditions. And yes, it's complicated, but it's simple in that whether it's in Grafton or in Sutton, and the agreement, the project happened because of that open space in Sutton and in Grafton, and the agreements were made based on that. So to me, it's really simple.
Yeah, I don't think it happened because of the open space, but those were the
It was
facts
part of the
on the
agreement,
ground
yes.
at the time the planning board made their decision and at the time the zoning board made their
Right.
decision. And that's really kind of what that next paragraph says, is that's really the primary consideration. You really only get into the next paragraphs if you get past that primary consideration. So,
Excuse me a minute. There's a gentleman out here that's had his hand up a couple of times, so.
Richard Mahoney, 132 Ariel. I think one of the reasons we're here that hasn't been stated yet is that if the paperwork had gone through as scheduled, and if everybody done that, but beyond that, that piece of property turned into a revenue generator. And I think that is what's driving to reverse that now. So it's an important point, I think, that it's now generates money from the telephone company to put the tower up on a monthly basis or whatever.
I'm not opposed to a cell phone tower going up, so and it can't be this simple, but you might need to find another spot. In the past few months, something happened to me on the planning board that no matter how many times anyone explained it to me, I still don't get it. There was a piece of property that said it couldn't be built on. And they built on it. And it was explained by everyone on the board. And if you say you can't build on it, not to be built on means not to be built on. And if this is supposed to be open space, that's what it was supposed to be. For whatever reason, it was supposed to be open space, and the tower, if that part of town needs a tower, then you should pursue that, but I'm not sure this is the spot for the tower.
that was interesting that you bring that up, because that was one of the other complications on this one. The planning board had conditions in their permit, the zoning board had conditions in their permit, and then on April 11th, 2005, the planning board was presented with a Form A plan based on the zoning board's decision, splitting off those parcels. And the vote was to allow the chairman to endorse the Form A plan for Sutton LLC dated 4/5/05 with the following condition: that the upland note has to be added to parcel 1A, and that not buildable ... the non-buildable note notation has to be added to the Grafton parcel. 3, an easement must be provided for emergency access from Follette Street. The applicant returned to the board on May 9th with a plan that only showed the Sutton parcel. And they said, I can't, the planning board can't sign a Form A for land in Grafton. There was, however, when I went to the Registry of Deeds, a plan from 2000, and I believe it was 3, showing Grafton and Sutton land on this project with a signature block for both boards, endorsed by both boards, showing the Sutton land and the Grafton land. So it certainly could have been done with 2 signature blocks. But in that meeting on May 9th, it says, therefore, Mr. Bruce had 2 plans drawn which together address the board's previously expressed concerns. The board reviewed changes to the Sutton plan, removing all Grafton land. The Grafton plan showing the emergency access easement was viewed as submitted to Grafton and subsequently recorded. Only there isn't anything on record. Just that original plan from the original purpose with no non-buildable notations. So those are 2 more things that kind of add to the weight of intent.
Toward the back.
Hi, I'm Kevin Costino. I'm the owner of 111 Ariel Circle. I just want to represent a lot of these issues that people brought up about the, possibly decreasing the property values of the tower, and, possibly safety concerns and whatnot. But when I bought in 2005, I'm very much into the outdoors, and that was a big selling point for me to have that open space right behind my unit. And I took advantage of it. There's great trails up there. I had snowshoe up there with my kids, and had a great time up there. And now they want to put a tower up there, possibly ruining all that fun time. And I never heard of anybody having issues with cell phones, because no one would live there if there was no cell service. So I can't believe that's an issue. I never had an issue up there. And as far as the duplexes go, I can see that, the points about it being inconsistent, the fact that, a bunch of them, we already have 36 units now that are fourplexes, and then suddenly there's gonna be almost like a whole nother neighborhood kind of puzzled in that's gonna be totally different. And yes, they can have the same color, but even look at the completed ones now, they got like trim around the windows where we don't and stuff like that, so it is gonna be like a 2-sided neighborhood now. And I mean, overall, it might not affect us that much, but I don't know, and like what was brought up before, there's been, issues after issues, and, just throughout the whole process of living there. When I first moved in, I thought we were gonna be done in a couple of years, and 12 years later, it hasn't really moved much at all since I moved in. So, and the fact that now that he wants to profit off of this open space that we were promised, bothers me, as an owner of there, so, thank you.
Okay. We're well over time as far as the next public hearing that's supposed to come. It sounds to me like the board itself, along with Grafton, has some questions that we may need some council help with. If there's not something that I haven't heard, I think I'm gonna ask for a motion to continue. And see if we can, maybe through the association and Jen and the board and Mr. Bruce, get a little more information on where we can head, if we can head.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, is there support from the board for the duplex concept? Can we get relief from that this evening, or do you want to continue the whole thing? And the trustees supported it. Some people have commented on it that they seem to look different, but they are predominantly a different part of the project completely. Whatever increased values that we're seeing now, there's units now that are selling, resales that are selling for more money. And we believe that any increase in market and in pricing that may be attributable to duplexes makes the other units also worth more money. If you feel it's more appropriate to continue the whole thing, then certainly it's up to the board, but it's a lot less complicated than the telecommunications tower.
Maybe to Jen's point, maybe we should have stuck with that when we opened.
Let me just
So
figure-
yes, I will let it go. We'll go a few more minutes and see what the general consensus is.
Let
Jen.
me complicate it just one more tiny bit, because it's not complicated enough. Depending on how the board acts on the tower issue, the density could be affected on the remaining.
The number of units that you can build.
If the project, I did the calcs, if the amount of land dedicated to this project, I don't think there's any gray area there. Cell tower area, however it's defined, however the board agrees to define it, if they even go in that direction, that cannot be counted as open space. So if the amount of land dedicated to this project as open space drops below 91.9 acres total, the number of units will have to be reduced in accordance with the density requirements of the bylaws. So that's the only thing. I mean, certainly, if you make a subsequent decision, that can be a condition of that subsequent decision. It's just a little cleaner if you're going to approve this amendment, that you approve it with the correct number of units and which ones are off the plan or on the plan. That's all.
Mr. Bruce?
No, I would just, we've got a waiting list of 5 people now, and we're trying, everybody wants this to proceed and continue and build out quickly. And there's significant changes to the infrastructure that I'm looking at. We would like to build the duplexes. We think they fit the site better. We think that it benefits absolutely everybody to go with the duplex route. And if the board felt that way and could vote it and move in that direction, to Jen's point, if something changes, we'd be back saying which one gets deleted or what gets moved. But if there's support for the duplexes, I would ask. If there's no support for it, I'd ask to continue it.
Well,
I
see both.
I want to suggest, Wayne, you did a good job, by the way. Yes, I wasn't sure how it was going to go. By waiting 2 weeks for the whole thing affords all the parties a chance to talk to each other without us here. And maybe in 2 weeks, it'll go a lot smoother, because there's been a whole lot of there's a whole lot of suggestions that have been made here that can take a complicated situation and move it into a different direction and into a less complicated situation. So for myself, I think the 2 weeks might be helpful. And I hope the waiting list grows during those 2 weeks. And I can't suggest strongly enough that all parties over those 2 weeks, even though there's a holiday stuck in there, see if there's some common ground. So as a planning board member, I can get some direction from you guys, because it's been a long one. And I thought we were done. I thought we put this whole thing to bed. And when I saw all the cars, I went, oh no.
So I've got 2 ladies that had their hand up right here, been nodding your head up and down all day, all night. I was wondering if you were going to speak.
Terry Trippy, I'm at 113 Ariel Circle. In the master condo documents, it's, and we've had meetings amongst ourselves, because people have changed certain things. And in the document itself, it says that everything has to be architecturally and aesthetically similar. The duplexes have a different roof line, different porches, and they're not architecturally the same. The porch is different, the color's the same, that's the only thing. So that to me brings up a point where how can you say they have to be architecturally the same when he's building some that are completely different and he wants to continue through the rest of it with, so what happens to the master, because that to me is an issue. They don't look the same. They're the same color, but they're completely different as far as roof line, porch, and, to me that brings another issue to the duplex.
Okay. So we haven't got beyond a schematic of where they're going to be laid out as the design, so appreciate it. Over here, right here.
Just Kara Alderici, just one more question / comment. But I think it's wonderful if there is a waiting list for the duplexes, but I would think, and I think we'd resolve tonight that at least you're going to table it so both can be entered at the same time. Because as a potential home buyer for a duplex, I would want to know about the cell phone tower, so I think one kind of feeds the other. So I appreciate that.
There's a gentleman over here.
Right here.
Yeah, just real quickly, Ron Novak, 13 Chase Road. I've been in that area for over 30 years, driven through Wilkinsonville, through Grafton, through South Grafton. Never once dropped a call, never had an issue with a text message not sending. There are virtually no cell issues that I've encountered in over 30 years in that area. Secondly, can they produce or put on public record where they got the results of the study of cell signal and complaints of cell loss and whatnot, so we can see where those came from.
That would normally be part of the public hearing on the tower issue itself, but the applicant's here and.
And just the actual, for some of us, we're not exactly sure where the tower is. Can you show us on a larger map, based on the entrance from Blackstone Street, where the structure is presumed to be going, if it gets that far?
The largest map we have tonight is probably your 11 by 17, right? Can you bring a larger one with you next time?
Yes.
Okay. Or the bigger one.
Thank you.
Okay. Make a motion that we continue this for 2 weeks. What's it look like?
Be the 27th.
You already have a hearing at 7:05. It's just a retreat lot. So 7:20.
I'll second the motion.
And that's the 27th? 27th of November at 7:20 PM.
Okay, all in favor?
Who is the second?
Me.
Mary.
Mary.
So who's the first?
Bob, Mary.
Mary.
Thank you all for coming and good discussion. Made my life a little easier.
Thank you.
Bob, do you have the public hearing notice for phase 3, Pleasant Valley Crossing?
Is that, yeah, no, it's, thank you. Good job, by the way. There was notice for you. Oh, my goodness.
I warmed up like, what was it, a few weeks ago?
Yeah, no. I'm a father, I have sons. I'm not sure there.
You put me over 1 year at a time.
Good luck.
Thanks. Is it who's up for election next time? Is that how you do it?
No.
No. That's generally
There's a
whoever is
rotation.
running the following year is the chair. But the ZBA being appointed, it's just like, okay, he didn't step back. Nice job. Thank you.
Damn cell phones. I need a copy of that.
All right, next public hearing.
I need a,
Probably not.
Is
So your sister?
I graduated with her. What's your name? Joe Layden.
did you give her all the answers, I hope? Do you have a copy of the notice?
Joe's Limited has a high-tech planning board set up, so.
Copy of the notice, Jen. The notice for the next one.
The next one.
I keep coming up with Ariel. I don't know how I lost it.
I'll mention it to her.
I got it.
Got it? Yeah, it's out of order. You have it. it's just
You're
out
gonna
of
blame
order.
Tammy next, aren't you?
Nope, don't blame anyone.
In accordance with the provisions of the Sutton
thank
zoning
you.
bylaw, section 3A4, table 1, table of use regulations, 4C, site plan review, 4B, groundwater protection district, VD, Route 146 overlay district, and 7A2, special permits. The planning board will hold a hearing on the application of Galaxy Pass LLC of Auburn, Mass. The applications are relative to Phase 3 of the shopping center on Galaxy Pass off Route 146 in Boston Road, known as Pleasant Valley Crossing. This phase is to be located on the adjacent land currently known as 11 Pleasant Valley Road. The applications seek the following: a retail use special permit within a new 8,500 square foot multi-tenant building, a groundwater protection district special permit for impervious coverage associated with 2 new buildings and related parking. And number 3, site plan modification expanding Pleasant Valley Crossing to include Phase 3, and a modification of the Route 146 Overlay District Special Permit for Phase 3. The hearing will be held at the Sutton Town Hall, 3rd floor, on Monday, November 13th at 7:30 p.m. Well, an hour off. Considering what we were up against, we did pretty good. It was a miracle.
Thank you for your patience.
We didn't know it was coming.
Copies of comments that you may or may not have.
I think I got those, the same ones as Jeff emailed.
You got Graves, you've got one here, a follow-up one from Graves, and,
Just slide out of my.
that's, sorry, that was fun.
So organized coming in here.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Patrick Doherty. I'm a professional engineer with Midpoint Engineering and Consulting, here on behalf of Galaxy Pass LLC. We're here for what we're referring to as Phase 3 of the Pleasant Valley Crossing Shopping Center. So on this map, this is in total, including Phase 3. We were here a couple of years ago for the Pleasant Valley Crossing Shopping Center that included, I guess, everything on the top side of this map. Recently, the folks at Galaxy Pass purchased what we refer to as the soccer field, or the practice soccer field, which is located at Pleasant Valley, on 11 Pleasant Valley Road. Our proposal is to expand the shopping center to include this parcel. So, for instance, access would be from the internal driveway. It wouldn't be from Pleasant Valley Road. I guess standalone, if we were to develop this without tying in, we may not need all of the same permits that we're seeking. Most notably, we probably wouldn't be seeking the Route 146 overlay district permit, because we wouldn't front on Route 146, but by tying this into the project, we would. So we're here to do two things with previous approvals, as you had noted. One is we're changing the site plan approval for Pleasant Valley Crossing Shopping Center, which would affect the driveways and landscaping adjacent to the roads. Then we would be modifying the special permit for the Route 146 overlay district. We'd be seeking a special permit for retail use. Commercial uses are allowed in the highway business zone, but retail requires a special permit from this board. And I think, what was the last permit we were seeking? Oh, the last is the groundwater protection district. The well that's located near Atlas Box for the Wilkinsonville Water District. The Zone 2 from that well extends into this property, which puts us in the groundwater protection district. So, talking about the property itself, it's approximately 4.3 acres. It's located on two, I guess, real frontages, being Pleasant Valley Road and Boston Road, and then a kind of quasi third frontage being the driveway known as Galaxy Pass that is the main driveway for the shopping center. It does not include the small parcel that used to have the red barn on it. That's owned by a different person. It's not part of this development proposal. So what we're planning to do are I guess, three things. Number one, we'd be adjusting the property line between this Phase 3 or Lot 4 and the adjacent property line. That would allow us to do number two, fix the main driveway. If you've driven into the shopping center from Boston Road, you'll probably notice it's kind of a strange alignment where you have to kind of go left and then go right. That alignment was that way because of the property line of the 11 Pleasant Valley Road. So we would be modifying that to make it a more, just a regular curve. So it's a typical radius in the roadway. The third thing we'd be doing is we would be constructing, an expansion of the project. We're proposing a 5,500 square foot sit-down restaurant in a standalone building, and we're proposing a approximately 18,500 square foot multi-tenant building. The multi-tenant building would have a medical user, about 6,800 square feet. There are two units that are designated for retail, and then a third end cap unit that's also proposed for a restaurant. Now, some of these uses required a special permit from the ZBA, which we did request and receive. So we went to the ZBA and we received the special permit for restaurant use in this zone and for medical use in this zone. So that part of the usage is already been approved by the other board. We've also gone to the Wilkinsonville Water District, knowing that there's some capacity issues in the pumping system, and we've received approval for the usage for this phase of the project. We've also submitted to the Conservation Commission, but we haven't yet had a public hearing, so I imagine this board would wait until we met with them before any action would take. So along with the uses, you were proposing a parking lot that would accommodate 198 vehicles. When you calculate out the individual uses, 169 spaces are required. As I'd mentioned before, we're only accessing Galaxy Pass. We're not proposing a road or a driveway connection onto Pleasant Valley Road or Boston Road. We just felt it was better traffic management to use the signalized intersection and direct connection onto 146. So we are proposing a right turn in lane near the signal. You wouldn't be able to exit there. And then you could circulate throughout the property and then exit out a driveway that exits onto Galaxy Pass further down from the signal.
That also includes an inlet as well, that second.
Yeah, we'd be able to go in and out, yeah. If you looked at the larger plan, you'd know that, the main driveway's here at the signal, but you can also come into the property from 146 north, so, we felt that the two access points were appropriate. The landscaping would be similar to what we've done in the rest of the center, so we've created the boulevard type driveway with street trees along either side. We've got numerous trees within all the raised landscape islands within the parking lot. Parking lot lighting will be done. There's going to be a different fixture here. We're proposing LED fixtures at 24-foot height. So the height of the fixtures are going to be similar to the heights of the bank and the two smaller buildings up along 146, but they're going to be an LED fixture. They'll be dark sky compliant, directing all the light downwards. We meet many of the requirements of the zoning ordinance. We are seeking a few waivers, though. They're similar waivers to what we had requested for the larger project. Jen had noted them in her review of the project, but I can go through them individually. The first waiver we'd be requesting is to allow parking and maneuvering aisles in the front and the side yard setback. The project would have a 50-foot front yard setback that would be about 10 foot off of the back of this building. And it would have a 20-foot side yard setback, which kind of runs on this map, about 3/4 of the way through the parking spaces. Our feeling is that that's justified in this. It's similar to the rest of the center, but because of the depth of this lot, and because we've got some resource areas on the north side of the lot, it really, a development for these uses becomes unfeasible if you need to respect all of the setbacks or not allow any maneuvering or parking in the setbacks. So, for instance, we would need to compress the paved area by about 40 feet. It just wouldn't allow for a parking lot with, proper circulation and whatnot, if we were to not utilize the setbacks. We've also asked for a maximum 100-foot, or to allow parking without breaking or having no more than 100 feet before a landscaped island exists. So the requirement would be that you could have 9 spaces, and then there would be a raised island, and then you could have another 9 spaces before another raised island. I think there's 3 spots where that occurs. It would be along the perimeter parking, along the top. It would be along the parking aisle to the south side of the multi-tenant building and to the north side of the restaurant building. We feel it's appropriate that more so in the area where the parking field is. The way that the site is going to be constructed, we're going to need to bring an awful lot of fill in order to get the site to drain properly and discharge into the resource area. So by introducing landscaped islands, we'd have to introduce a whole lot more low spots. We're also worried about the amount of area. You really lose a lot of parking in the winter months for snow plowing when you have a lot of obstacles in the way. So what we've done is we've broken up the parking lots into smaller size lots. So, for instance, we've got the longitudinal aisles that kind of separate the parking lots. We did that similar in the Market 32 parking lot and created separate lots for the rest of the buildings rather than having one common lot for everything. So, our feeling is that we're introducing enough landscaping to meet the intent of the bylaw, but we're still going to be able to operate it more efficiently in winter months and be able to construct it much easier.
Did you run your interior lot landscaping calc to show that you have at least 5%?
Yes, yeah, and we're right there. And my plan was to put together complete response to your comments, to Jeff's comments, and probably not do that until after we meet with the Conservation Commission, because I have a feeling they'll probably have some comments as well. I'll just try and get them all addressed at one time. We're also seeking a waiver from the requirement for no more than 25% parking in front of the buildings. And, the definition of that was kind of hard for me. What is the front of these buildings? Is it the side towards the street? Is it the side where the front doors are? So, we feel that the way that this site's been developed, and this site plan especially, is we've broken up the parking lots. And I think the intent of that requirement is not to look at a whole sea of parking from road frontages. So, if you're coming down 146, you see the two buildings that we've constructed, you won't see this development. From Pleasant Valley Road, you'll see this grouping of parking, but is it in front of a building or is it to the side of the building? So not quite sure 100% if we needed to request that, but I think it was kind of a coverall. In any case, we think that we've done a good job with the siting of the buildings and to kind of separate the parking lot with landscaping and whatnot so that we meet the intent of the requirement. The fourth waiver we'd request is in regards to sidewalks. There's a requirement, like there should, to link all the buildings in the development with sidewalks, and it specifies they have to be 6 foot wide and hardscape. I don't know that they say materials. One spot it references it should be brick or pavers or some other dirty brick like. What we did for the rest of the development is we did colored stamped concrete in front of the buildings, and I think in the sidewalks within the parking lot, but where we had a long connection from one building to another, we were allowed to use regular concrete at 5 foot width, and we're requesting the same. And I guess the real justification for that is we're trying to link all these buildings and do a good job. So we're not just doing one sidewalk. So we're proposing in this phase that the connectivity is coming from this building across to this building and then connecting to the buildings with the Pleasant Valley Dentistry. When phase 2 is done, we would link this building to that building as well. Similar to what we've done on the rest of the development, where for instance, we've constructed this part, but we've made a couple of little loops so that it's convenient for pedestrians to park in one spot and walk to any of the buildings. So to allow us to continue doing that and to allow us to do it with a 5 foot concrete sidewalk where there's a long expanse, we would request that waiver, and it would be a similar condition. I think that it looks nice. I don't think that it's not pleasing what has been constructed to date. The fifth waiver, I don't think it was listed, but I kind of caught that, and that was, you probably get this request, is to show a plan with the name and address of all owners within 300 feet.
You do have one, don't you?
Not 300 feet, because we would touch the condos, and we would have to list all the condos there. In the scale of the plan.
The butters plan, okay. It just
Yeah,
didn't go to 300.
yeah, and that, it's shown on the abutters list. We did the certified mailing and had the certified list drawn up. But to show it all on one plan, we would have to, it would be a very small scale plan. It wouldn't really provide a lot of information. So, we're requesting those waivers.
I also have you with a loading space.
We'll revise the plans to show the loading space.
Okay,
We
you're gonna
won't
add the
be-
loading space,
yeah, we
okay.
won't be requesting that.
All right, so, yeah, continue, and
Yeah.
then we'll go back to the waivers.
So the proposed building architecture, I haven't had a lot of time to sit with Jen between her comments and tonight, so I'm sure that you'll be seeing something a little bit differently. But what we're proposing, this would be the restaurant building. So we're over here. So the side facing the multi-tenant building would be what we call the front elevation. And we're using a mixture of wood panels, some decorative awnings, and some gooseneck lighting. The parapet will be raised so that the HVAC units would be shielded. We've got a similar elevation on the left side, which would be towards Galaxy Pass. This would include an outdoor seating area and storefront with the wood panel awnings and whatnot. Right now, I think the comment is that they're plain, the rest of the sides. The architect has designed these buildings, and the predominant material is ephes as of right now. I think that's similar to what the sides in the rear of the Market 32 building were constructed of. I spoke with the architect and have some ideas. I really wanted to kind of flush it through with Jen before we present another elevation, if that's okay with the board. We're proposing similar materials for the multi-tenant building. So in this elevation, the top elevation is what we're calling the front elevation, which would be facing towards Galaxy Pass. The right side elevation would be the side facing Boston Road. The left side would be facing the restaurant, and then the rear would be facing Pleasant Valley Road. So, we've trying to complement, both the restaurant and then probably more of the Market 32 building, more than the other buildings. We're using the combination of metal and wood paneling with kind of raised towers over the entrances to the individual businesses. There is a drop-off canopy shown for the medical user, which would be, of similar materials. And there would be offices along the perimeter of that, so that's one user that we've shown having windows along, at least three sides of the building for that user. Typically, we're able to introduce more elements when it's a restaurant or a medical office or a standard office, just because the types of operations going on the inside. Natural light on the perimeter walls is something that can be accommodated there. When in the center buildings where they're retail in nature or even personal service, the front part of the space is going to be active for the customers, and the back is typically storage or bathrooms or service related uses, and it's tough to introduce natural windows in those locations. So we can certainly look at bringing some more interest into that building, but I'm not sure that we could introduce too many more windows. And I've got some ideas that I can go over with Jen.
All windows, variations in color, different materials, way better landscaping, because that's gonna be a long expanse with clear visibility to Pleasant Valley Road.
Yeah. And the site we are going to be lower than Pleasant Valley Road, and it kind of drops off. So we're
A view shed rendering would help.
Hmm?
Then a view shed rendering would help.
Yeah. From 146.
Yeah, that's one of those requirements to, yeah.
Well, yeah, we have to do it from 146 though.
Well, all adjacent roadways like that.
So I guess lastly, we did, updated the traffic impact study for the overall development, and included, this new development on top of what was originally approved, not necessarily what is operating. So it's not like we did a traffic count of the driveway, although we did, to kind of compare it with what was studied before. So we updated the traffic impacts study. We added the home improvement retail to the rest of the shopping center and added proposed trip generation for this project. And I guess the summary of it is that the level of service at all the intersections remains as it would in the future build. None of the level of service designations would change. So
I'm going to go to B, but I do have some questions.
Mhm.
I'll just mention them.
Sure.
And then, but we'll forward them to you and Green as well. Particularly for the sit-down restaurant use, on Saturday in particular, I'm interested in the evening peak hour, not the midday peak hour, because it's that Saturday evening when people are gonna be coming and going from that restaurant and potentially coming and going from Five Guys, Starbucks, or the grocery store. So need to see, we see the evening peak during the weekday, but we don't see the evening peak on the weekend. They noted they were gonna introduce bike racks. What's the status of the bike racks on the rest of the project? Were they ever?
They're all in and they've never been used.
All right.
Chip on any of the paint.
They were just built well. And he used shopping center use category from the ITE trip generation manual. I really think he should be, I want to see the numbers with restaurant and shopping
Right,
center.
I'll have him probably, and I'll invite him to the next meeting. He was invited, he had a conflict tonight. But, from previous discussions in different projects, and when you have a shopping center, the shopping center use category is generally the most accurate. If it were standalone, a standalone restaurant might have a peak from, 5 to 7. And the nail salon might have a peak from 3 to 5. But when you add up all the square footages, the shopping center as a whole, it peaks at one time. So you wouldn't necessarily add the peak generation from 5 to 6 for this to the peak from 3 to 4 for the supermarket. So I can have him provide a better explanation, but generally speaking, that's why it's done. And
I just think your numbers are gonna be different during the peaks for shopping center as opposed to restaurant and shopping center.
Right.
But we can have that
Yeah,
discussion.
because the supermarket will probably be lower when the restaurant's higher, so it balances it down.
His residents, are we able to comment when he's speaking?
Yes, you will.
When he's
Oh,
done.
you will. To your
When he's
point,
done.
you go into Price Chopper on a Saturday afternoon, there's no parking. All the employees for the market have to park in the open area where your second phase is. So now you're gonna add all these additional cars. I think there's gonna be a lot of traffic.
All righty, so,
Yeah, I'm at 126 Boston Road.
What's your name?
Dan Robertson.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew I recognized you.
The other concerns I would have is, what is the maintenance plan? Because I get a lot of papers blowing out of there. There's tons of wind that comes across that parking area. It's also dust during the summer months. And I know you mentioned that was an intermittent stream, but I see that water running all the time. 2 weeks ago, we had nearly 4 inches of rain. The field flooded. There was water cutting across the Galaxy Way. The drains, the storm drains over where I am, were clogged with leaves, and it was totally flooded. I don't know if there's some sort of ongoing maintenance that you guys plan, or is that the town's responsibility?
Certainly when the
I
leaves.
can answer on the maintenance. The project is required to maintain the on-site basins. You know, the town or DOT does the stuff on Boston Road and Pleasant Valley Road. You know, quarterly, I go out there and I, you know, check the sediment levels for the parking lot. It's been such that we've only needed to clean them out one time. You know, there was never more than an inch or two where I think at 9 inches you're supposed to pump them out, but we went through and pumped them out one time already. I think 3 times a week we've got maintenance folks out there, you know, cleaning up the cigarette butts and any trash around the buildings. They do a pretty good job. I go to a lot of shopping centers. I think this is, you know, one of the better or cleaner shopping centers that I frequent.
Well, they recently took down the fence, so I think that it's increased since they took the fence
Yeah.
down between the 2 parcels.
Right. You know, like, you can certainly, you know, they probably focus on the storefronts. You know, we had a question from the Conservation Commission where, especially construction debris was blowing into the wetlands, and, you know, we send the guys out there, you know, weekly to clean anything up there, and then, you know, eventually put a chain link fence up to keep it. So, you know, we're on top of it when we notice it or are told, so, you know.
Is the restaurant gonna be a drive-through restaurant?
No, we're not
To
proposing
sit
it.
down?
We're proposing it.
And they won't be able to change it to a drive-through?
Well, if what we're proposing is, right now, is a sit-down restaurant. If
Is
something
it
were to fall through.
24 hours a day, or is it something?
No, just the typical sit-down restaurant.
So be closing at full liquor license, or?
I would think it would.
You would think,
Yeah, so, if that were to fall through and we were to plan anything with a drive-through or a different use, if it went from, I think even from restaurant to a medical office or anything, you know, we'd be back before this board.
Where is your property in relation to the project?
I'm directly across the street.
Right there, okay.
And my neighbor's on the other
I'm
side
right next
of
to
the
it.
traffic light. And I get all the traffic lights shining into my property, and tenants complain. There's no crosswalk there. I got elderly people that
And
are
there's no
trying to cross.
sidewalks.
There's no sidewalks, yeah. It's awful.
Always seeing people
Can't
walking
believe
down the
they were
street.
able to build it without sidewalks.
Yeah, it was just tight.
Yeah.
That's the only reason they
Yeah.
didn't go out to Boston, because it was so tight.
Yeah, I think they need to expand and make it even add another lane. It gets backed up because people are still coming down the road, turning around constantly, going up Dudley Road. If you drive up Dudley Road, people block the driveways because people constantly try to turn around in their driveways.
And then in regards to the stream, it is an intermittent stream. It was designated that back when this project was first
So that
proposed.
was during the
to include
summer
it.
months though, so that last storm we had, it was like a river.
Oh, I agree with you.
And then the dam where the hatchery is, Marble
Yeah.
Pond,
Right.
what if that fails? That's not gonna be an intermittent stream, that's gonna be running all the time.
Well, if that failed, it would, that dries up. I've walked the whole channel.
So where it's
the-
dammed,
the-
where Marble
the change-
Pond is.
The difference between perennial and intermittent stream is if it dries up for 4 days during the 12
I still don't think, a 25-foot setback compared to a 200-foot setback, that's a big difference.
But, I can assure you there's an intermittent stream. It was designated that before, and then I
When
read
was
redid
that study done? That was done during the summer?
Yeah, well, that's normally when they dry out, yes. It was done during the summer. So I went there from, I think, July to September 3rd. And, for probably this first week of August to September 3rd.
So
it
if the
dried up
dam
and then
fails
it
and
was-
that water's constantly running, that's no longer an intermittent stream.
If the dam fails.
Because that water, yeah, it starts on Sibley Road. Clark Reservoir feeds all the way down there eventually.
I think that's more for conservation, but.
Yeah. But you already got the approvals, is that right?
No,
Conservation?
we're,
No.
yeah.
Nope.
So,
All right, so you gotta decide if there's any of the waivers you feel comfortable acting on tonight. And other than that, like Patrick said, he needs to respond to some of the comments, make some adjustments, and prepare a point-by-point response to anything you've received to date.
Right.
And then you just need to decide whether you're going. When's your on-com start?
Like December 5th or 6th, it's, actually, I could run out and look and see what
Is this the
meeting it is.
beginning of December?
It's the first week, so I don't think that, unless there's something you want me to come back with for the
So
27th.
you go to the first meeting,
Yeah.
the only meeting in December, which is on that first sheet I gave you. I think it's the
First week in December is 12, 11.
December 11 would be the, and you have 2 public hearings scheduled, so you'd be going to 7:40 that night.
So there's 3 boards or 3 comments. Tax collector, they're all set. Fire department has no comments at this time. And Board of Health, no concerns at this time. Town water and sewer, food establishment must, Board of Health plan review, I think it says.
Yeah.
She might want to start typing stuff.
And then my comments were dated November 2nd and are
Lengthy.
not in a bad, they're cleaner plans than most, but there's definitely a few things that need to be addressed.
Congratulations, I didn't know you bought the soccer field. That's, God, I was surprised to hear that when I saw it. That's low, that's down low.
It's low from Pleasant Valley Road. It's about the same elevation as the Galaxy Pass Road, but there's a berm in between, so it's kind of deceiving.
Okay, all right, yeah, and I haven't been to the mall, so I don't know about the new place. I've been by it. That's as close as I want to get, fortunately. One of the things that I heard about last year, and I just said I'll always bring it up when things like this happen. In the parking lot, the concept of building raised beds and putting plantings on them is perhaps backwards. Why wouldn't you invert them so they hold water and the trees grow, and you still have the
Like a rain garden.
yeah, it's just so this is the first one that I've seen come in. And why? And you sign something that says you're going to plant the tree. You plant the tree, so you know it's going to die, or you know it, but it hasn't got a chance because if it rains, the roots don't get the concept of managing the water and making sure that what the plants retain the water that comes off the parking lots makes sense to me. So if that's something you can see, is that something futuristic?
You know, that it's becoming more typical. With the larger developments, we find that, people are driving into things, and it's a little bit harder to control. Or you end up with, wheel stops, they moved around by snowplows. It's more maintenance. It's something that DEP especially in the
Right.
is encouraging, so long as they're large enough.
Right.
You do have some tricks or tricky designs because you usually want some type of a drain there. In any case, whether it's an overflow plastic drain or with an under drain, so it gets a little trickier. And you have to just check elevations and whatnot to see if that could happen. But
I want to go to that thing on December 1st.
Yeah.
The conversation more and more needs to be about what? We're not conservation, but it comes, not the way it used to, and it comes sporadically, but we need to manage it when it comes. And to think that, the intermittent stream becomes the river, and that whole using what gets sent to us appropriately. If that could be
I can
put into the design, if it's a possibility, and if you're right by the water and there is a pond, it just seems like it's a nice opportunity to try something small. It's not real big, and if it backfires completely, it's better than having the whole damn mall done that way, and creating other problems that are unforeseen. But when you were mentioning that, and I was looking at the islands with the plantings, I said, "Here's my chance."
That'd be another one.
Yeah.
When I need to, I think they're supposed to be raised per the, I would imagine it would be an accepted waiver, but do I need to add that to
Oh, I don't know,
the
I'll
list?
have to see if the regs specifically call for a raised island.
Yeah, I think they do, but.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
I'm Marcel Doran from 122 Boston Road.
Where's that, Marcel?
He's right across on the main.
I'm right across from the driveway.
Dudley Road.
This is my driveway.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That used to come to here.
Yeah.
So it was blocked off. As you come down my driveway, it puddles up right here. The agreement that I had with Jen years ago when Leclerc was gonna do the project, where we were gonna close off my driveway here, put fill in, because it puddles up right here. Fill the land in, and trees were supposed to be planted right here to keep me from seeing the sign. That never happened. I've been patient, but I believe the agreement was that when Phase 2 went in, but if Phase 2 doesn't go in and Phase 3 goes in, I'd like to get that done sooner than later with the trees too. I've had people, when the driveway first got put in, I've had people used to turning around there for years, driving over the new lawn that these guys gave me. And I put barriers right at the end, and, you know, to try and keep people from doing that, and it's just not acceptable. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, you know, we spoke out there.
Yeah,
We
I
would
just
certainly
wanted
do it
to
as
know.
part of this.
Make him happy.
Yeah, it's been years. I've been traveling.
Did you get, your first name?
Marcel.
Marcel, did you get his business card or something?
I have his email.
Yeah, that works real, the hell with the meeting. That works real well, 'cause
I actually
in
did
the-
have your card. Do you know the card?
You know what, I don't know if I have one on.
He can hand write one, that way there.
Yeah, I
You don't-
just
You don't
wanted to-
come back, no, you can get
No, I know,
that fixed. You don't need
know
us.
if I needed to
You don't need
bring it
us.
up. I just,
Pat, just give me a cut sheet
to say.
of whatever you agree to with him, so we
Yeah.
can just include it as part of the record.
I mean, you don't come back, no, that's
been a long
that's how it
time
works.
since I've been in a meeting.
Yeah, well,
This meeting's not about the signage either, because I think you had mentioned there's gonna be signs on the other
Yeah.
side of the street now.
We are proposing a freestanding sign on, adjacent to Boston Road, you know, just about center of the lot frontage. There's, you know, Boston, there's this, already an existing freestanding sign for, you know, the remainder of the shopping center there. It's a small, I think, you know, about a third of the size of the sign that was built along 146, and we'd be proposing something similar along the frontage here.
stay tuned.
Yeah.
What is the status on Phase 2?
I guess the status is we've had conversations with different users. There's nothing in the works or even close at this point right now. Yeah, I think that everyone realizes that you know, the home improvement store is been out of the picture for so long that it's not likely that they'll be back in. But you know, we've looked at alternative designs, have spoken, and we really don't want to get started with that. You know, until there's a significant enough of interest, you know, in the buildings. You know, we've been marketing it for about the same size or square footage of the home improvement store, so I think it's, you know, roughly 140,000 square feet or something. So until we had at least a quarter or a third of that, you know, with serious interest, you know, we wouldn't be revising the plan and starting the construction of that.
And that's not the case for this, you have some interest on?
Yes, yeah.
On these places, wow.
Yeah.
And that lot,
Medical marijuana.
to Mr. Robinson's point with the dust and stuff, is that lot fully covered with vegetation?
No, and Jen has brought that up in her comments. She's actually brought up several things. She brought up that, the sign on Boston Road, the base of it was never completed, and the third, what was the, I thought there was three.
Probably.
It's not 100% vegetated. There was never loam put on it. But just like the gravel pit before, we started construction, the native species have started to grow, so there is some vegetation. There's, at least one spot where there's tire tracks going through it where, it's all compacted, it hasn't grown. What we'd like to, one thing we are gonna be doing, sometime this month is we need to go and cut down the detention pond. And at the same time, we were gonna cut, the brush that has grown up in this area. And then I think there's still some piles of, I think there was a loam pile and a stone pile and, of construction materials that are there. So before we're here again, we're gonna have done some maintenance and I'll take some good photos and, we're hoping not to go to the expense and actually, it's not just the expense, but to the effort of covering 9 acres of gravel with loam and seeding it, knowing that at some point it's probably in the near future it's going to be removed. We will be generating a whole lot of loam on this property. We've had geotech reports done, and where there's normally about 6 inches of loam on a property, there's 12 to 18 inches here. So we will be generating loam here that we could bring over and cover the areas that are real bad, but we'd hope to not have to cover that whole 9 acres. We're going to be doing the maintenance sometime this month, and maybe before the next meeting, you guys could take a quick run through and see if you think it's acceptable to leave with some spot fixing upping. The sign, I don't even know what to say about the sign. The sign contractor, went in with the design assuming that it was flat and we were gonna have the brick base on it. He had his cabinet made and realized it was on a slope. And, one side of the base of the sign is 9 feet above grade and the other side's about 4.5 feet above grade. So, no excuses. We should have had this done a long time ago, but it kind of fell through the cracks. And when I got Jen's review memo, I said, what are we doing here, guys? We gotta clean this up. And we've asked the sign guy for his recommendations. So it's going to be either one of two things. Either we're going to, continue the wrapping of the posts down towards grade and build a stone wall down there, or build some kind of a wall where the posts are exposed and finish it off that way. And it's probably a pretty good exercise now because, it's going to be a similar condition for a new sign over here, so it'll get completed right the first time. And the other thing with that sign is they put it about a foot too low so that you're looking through the fence to read any of the tenants, so there was a lot of issues with that sign.
I see that green area. Is that intended to be grass after the project's built out, where the tree lines?
Yeah, so.
Closest to Boston Road, on the opposite side?
Yeah, we're not proposing any work on.
So is there some sort of maintenance that's gonna be done to that, because it's like a field? I know I have to keep my grass cut. I know you guys haven't cut the grass over there in quite some time.
Usually doesn't want them anywhere near that intermittent stream, so you definitely have to.
Well, what they did say, what we haven't done as of yet, and I'm not sure if it's gonna be in the maintenance plan, is like once a year, just knock it down with a brush hog or something. That's what was done around the Gerard Pond, and it's my understanding that's still allowed. I don't know if that would be part of the maintenance plan, or just to let it go back down.
Usually don't like it. Loam and seed that close to the wetlands.
As a soccer field, it was mowed right
Yeah,
up.
they mowed both sides right up
to the bank of it on a weekly basis.
Previously disturbed, so there's.
One other quick question, again to Mr. Robinson's point about the employee parking. Is that the same area that was temporary, quote unquote, parking for move-in and training of employees?
Yes. And I guess they're
getting retrained a lot.
Yeah.
No, turnover. So
I seem to remember hearing that that site was gonna be loamed and seeded for stabilization. And you've done a good, don't take this the wrong way, you've done a good job down there, all right? But I find myself back as the hearing prior to this, where some of the stuff that was supposed to be done isn't done, and we're looking at another phase. I don't know how to enforce it.
Well, I think that we've been pretty quick to react to a lot of things, and there's a need for parking there. It's, you know, the overall project, you know, probably they would have shared a lot of parking with the home improvement store that doesn't generate a lot. You know, the rest of the uses, they're all doing well. You know, so I guess to not have a lot of parking.
And I'm happy about that.
So, you know, what we'd hope, you know, we've been keeping it clean, even the you know, the temporary parking that we made, you know, it's not just the gravel there, we brought in, you know, the asphalt grinding, so it's stable. You know, I think that it probably needs to be touched up now, because it's been there for 2 years. You know, we'd hope to be able to continue using that, you know, if we were told no, then we'd probably be coming back with a modification for a parking area with drainage and stuff that would get torn up when that phase gets developed, so. You know, it's draining, it's stable. You know, I don't know that it's causing a problem, other than it's not what was originally proposed, so. You know, if you want something more formal, a request to allow it, we'd certainly do that. But, you know, we think that it's working right now, and hope that we'd be able to keep it that way.
I just have a good question. So on the phase 2, how long are you going to continue to market it as this size? And if there's just not a market for it, are you going to consider at some point chunking it down to smaller
Yeah,
buildings?
you know, if you've gone on Galaxy's website, you'd probably see 4 different versions of what phase 2 would look like. One of it has, you know, a couple of restaurants and, you know, a less deep building. You know, that's probably the way that it's going to go.
What kind of a time frame are you thinking about?
You know, we would have hoped to start it, you know, a year ago.
Right.
You know,
But I mean, as far as how long you're going to let this kind of sit there before you decide to
When they get
reconfigure
tenants
it
for the
or-
building.
No, but I'm talking about the big building isn't selling.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what I'm saying
Yes.
is,
Put in parking.
when are you going to say uncle and then decide to reconfigure it in a way that
Yeah,
could be
so
marketed?
what I was
That
trying
kind of
to,
gives us a timeline of how long it's going to be vacant.
Typically, what happens, they sell the development.
yeah, but that's
For
not,
100 million and.
yeah,
Wouldn't
that's
that
not.
be great? You never
What
have to
he's
come
done
back.
is he's put out there multiple different potential
Send that person.
configurations,
So-
all in the same size range.
So none of those are, yeah.
So we,
Each 20, what did you say,
yeah,
25?
about 25 or 30%, you know, of real interest before
We'll revise the site
we
plan.
revise the site plan and start constructing, so.
So
You
he's
know,
got
there's
some
been,
draft site plans
All
out
right,
there.
that's why I was just trying to get an idea on, because like,
yeah, so we haven't just been sitting here waiting for you know, someone to come knocking.
no, I'm just wondering, like, 'cause I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
we're a few years into it now, and
Yeah.
just wondering like how much longer before.
You know, and you know, we've looked at some of the, you know, non-shopping center type of uses to, you know, see if there was interest in that as well. And, you know, it's, I think the best use is to kind of wait it out. You know, I think that, you know, I think that retail right now has slowed down, you know, but for, you know, food uses and medical uses. So they kind of all go in cycles. You know, we're thinking that, you know, next year, maybe the year after, you get another round of retail development. You can even see, even in the center, what we thought were going to be more retail type uses has gone to personal service and in food. So, you know, that's kind of what the cycle we're in right now. An awful lot of medical uses going up everywhere right now.
More coming.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we got a few choices on this. We can approve with conditions, or we can continue. And you're kind of waiting for
They need to start.
conservation.
Yeah, I'd rather, you know, request a continuance, you know, at least have one meeting with the Conservation Commission, get some comments from them, and so we're not.
But we should address whatever waivers you think you can, because if you don't grant some of those waivers, he's got to redesign in a big way. So, I mean, there's the parking and maneuvering in the setbacks, similar to the rest of the project. the unbroken rows of parking in excess of 10 spaces, more than 25% of the parking in front of the building. The sidewalks, a portion of them, longer sections of them being concrete as opposed to stamped colored concrete or block. And then just that technical one that there doesn't need to be an abutters plan showing
Right.
everybody within 303 feet, because we have a certified abutters list with notification to all those people that are within 300 feet. So, so if you can do any action on those, then that will certainly help. Otherwise, there needs to be some redesign.
Patrick, on the bottom of this plan against Pleasant Valley Road, is there a driveway around that building that goes across the edge?
So anything gray here is driveway, and the orange is the building, so that would be the service and loading area in the back. So, you could come all the way around the back of this building. The setback line is 50 feet for public road, so it's here. So, as I was explaining, we would either have no access to the back of the building if we were respecting that line.
Yeah.
Or, from here would be moved up, and from here would be moved down, and you'd compress this whole parking field so that.
To my right, in between the trees, does that continue all the way down and come around into the other parking lot?
This comes, no, it comes around and up. This white area is not our property, that's the.
It comes back into the lot?
Yeah. Right, just comes back into the lot.
Okay.
Yeah. And then this is that other parking lot that's by the dentist and the Starbucks.
Yep.
So it ends here, so we continue a sidewalk over to that sidewalk.
Okay.
Are they gonna make any improvements to the roads in the area?
There's none proposed, though I definitely liked your sidewalk and your crosswalk comment. In terms of from the roadway.
But Dudley Road gets used quite a bit now, and I know they've been trying to patch it here and there, but
Yeah, the highway superintendent and I are actually looking at, there's a few roads that qualify for federal funding, and the highway superintendent and I are actually looking at potential for an application for federal funding, because that needs some road geometry changes too. You've got some very dangerous intersections and drainage issues. So that's certainly, I don't think their traffic would show, there's definitely an increase on Dudley Road from this project, but I don't think it would trip warrants to make them improve Dudley Road, but the town's already looking at that because Dudley Road is
what
a
about
mess.
Marysby? Could they make that 2 lanes, increase traffic?
What do you mean, Pleasant Valley?
Or PV Road, yeah.
Pleasant Valley Road?
Actually, I think the town, the highway department on the first round with this refused to let them go over 2 lanes.
Just because all the cars still tend to turn right because they still want a left turn onto Boston Road. So they miss it and then they turn around. So, I don't know, maybe some better signage or a better approach onto that road would help people in
Onto
advance.
Dudley Road, you mean?
Yeah, people that used to be able to make the left at the traffic zone, they can't do that. They're supposed to go Pleasant Valley Road.
Right.
But
and they don't.
They're not. They're going and they're making a
Turn right
turn.
and then turning around.
Oh, yeah.
where I am, in my driveway and your driveway.
So they come up to where the left would be, it's not there, so they take a right, they go down and turn around there, yeah.
Or they make the lane.
Because the signage coming onto Pleasant Valley Road is really tiny. Like if you see, like exit to Boston Road, it's a really small sign. It's, if I wasn't a resident, I wouldn't.
I've never noticed it.
Yeah, it's tiny. Because I split my time between taking that exit, because I come up from Rhode Island every day. I take either Central Turnpike or that road.
How's
And
that
that's-
turning on the Boston Road?
It's typically not too bad. Actually, it's sometimes better than turning onto Central Turnpike, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
But I did notice, like, taking that road, that sign is really small. So if I was coming up, there's really not a lot of warning. And then when you do get there, it's like,
Yeah.
And I think the old
not very well signed.
The old GPS is if you've got like a car-mounted one, you're not using the Google one.
Yeah,
on
the
your phone.
Google one is accurate.
So, yeah, the Google one is
Yeah.
updated, but the ones that are built into the car aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once you go past there, you're in
Yeah.
nowhere land.
It hasn't been too bad taking the
So
left.
either
but
you or Green, just take a look at the signage in the area, see if any improvements can be.
Some of it's, I think, state.
Yeah, it's all
or-
state.
Yeah, there is Mass DOT,
Yeah.
but Mass DOT will potentially allow some improvements. I can have the Mass DOT guys take a look at it too.
It's a general motion, and I'd be willing to make a motion to address the parking issues in traffic. It sounds like that's, if this is, you have tenants, clearly you have a parking problem, I guess, I'm hearing, at the other part in phase one.
During the peak times, yeah.
So, and I don't want this to fail, so I want to grant waivers that are going to let the businesses, so they need to have parking, they need to have rotation of traffic, because if you get a gridlock, and if we don't grant you the waivers, then it doesn't flow. And that's not what, as a planning board, that's not what we should be doing. At the same time, I want to be conscious to the residents and the people, people got to get in and got to get out.
So there's 3 waiver requests relative to parking maneuvering. Parking and maneuvering in the setbacks, allowing over 10 spaces in a row without an island
Right.
in there, and that's just in 3 locations. And then more than 25% of parking in front of the building.
Is that, I still don't know the definition of that one. Is it the front of the building, between the road and the building, or the front of the building?
Front elevation, you drew it the right
Elevation
way.
and Galaxy Drive.
Okay.
You got more than 25% there.
Yes, they do.
So those are the 3 that have to do with parking.
Right,
The other
if
one
someone
is.
seconds it, we can have a discussion if there is any.
I'll
So
second
you
it.
want-
Good.
Okay, so a motion for the parking waivers, there's 3 of them.
Any discussion on them?
I think it's fabulous.
Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Okay.
Okay, 5-1.
And then
What do
you
you
have a
mean,
technical
hearing none?
waiver.
Huh?
What do you mean, hearing none?
She said fabulous.
Yeah.
It's on the record. Fabulous.
Hearing
Okay. 300-foot of butters, waiving the requirement to have a 300-foot of butters plan. There's an immediate abutters plan. They just don't show 300 feet, but they have provided, and we utilize the 300-foot of butters certified list for the mailings.
And that's the same list that's been used in the previous phase of the project.
And then some.
Yeah, because it's extended with this.
And then some, yeah, it's a bigger list. I forget what the tab was, about $500 worth of mailings.
Ooh.
I make a motion that we
Yep.
grant that waiver.
Second, second. Can't even talk.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The last waiver request is on the longer end, you're gonna have to specify because it's not clear on the plan, it needs to be made clear on the plan, and maybe that's, you wanna hold on this one until it's clear on the plan, is just some of the sidewalks would be concrete as
Right.
opposed to the stamped color.
Yeah, and that's, I'll address that on the, you know, the
Okay,
next
so
one.
we
the
won't
plans,
act
yeah.
on that one tonight?
Yeah, we'll use a different pattern or
So we're
something,
gonna
so it's very
hold
clear.
on the last one.
Great.
And we're gonna,
So the continuance would need to go to December 11th at 7:40.
do I hear a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's my voice. Make that motion to adjourn.
Second.
We got it.
Motion to keep Wally down that end of the table.
All in favor of adjourn? Aye.
Who was the second on the,
Wally.
on that one too?
Yeah.